last night, another amazing basketball game. Just want to point out Jokic and Booker so far in this series through 4 games. Jokic, 36.5 points, 14 rebounds, 9.5 assists, 57 and 43% shooting splits from the field and 3. Booker, 36.3 points, 5.3 rebounds, 8.8 assists, 63.7 and 57% shooting splits from field goal and 3. And he's 34 for 43 in his last 2 games. The shot making from this guy in particular, from Booker, has just been insane. And it's been like this throughout the playoffs, but the efficiency the last 2 games is just, it's insanity.
Did you think he was going to be able to keep up the pace after game 3, after 20 for 25 in game 3?
No, no. I mean, I just, again, it's like, I think what, to a degree, and this is one of the things I want to talk about with this, is to a degree, the double teams, right? They help Durant when they double Booker. They help Booker when they double Durant. When they don't double, they've got a guy sitting at the nail in help on the ISOs. They've got guys at boxes and elbows when they're ISO'd up top. I mean, they're paying so much attention to both of them. And then despite only playing now, whatever it is, 17 games together, 9 in the playoffs and 8 in the regular season, the 2 of them have a real innate sense of where they are, where the other one is on the basketball floor. And they find each other, whether it is double teams or whether it is help, the ball just kind of finds the other one. And that's what I think everyone envisioned when they made this trade, is like, holy shit, you've got 2 really dynamic scorers. How are you going to guard this?
Booker had 12 assists last night as well. What are they supposed to do? I mean, Landry, credit to him, but he's wide open on those 4 threes in the fourth. What should their strategy look like moving forward? Because if he's going to keep shooting like this, I'm not really sure how you can do anything but, leave these guys open.
Yeah, I think the big question mark was really your first question, which was how sustainable is this? And I think it's a decent question, because if you don't think it's sustainable, then you try to play one-on-one as much and you try to stay out of rotations. If you do think it's sustainable, and at this point, I think there's a healthy level of respect for the Denver Nuggets, then you've got to double at times. You've got to be in rotation. And I think through the first 2 games, after the first 2 games, rather, Monty talked about getting some of the offensive guys in and just dealing, I think his quote, not mine, dealing with the warts, whatever warts may come defensively. And after that game 2, when their bench had 4 points, I think their bench, these 4 guys, TJ Warren, Jock Landale, Landry Shamet, Terrence Ross, have been instrumental. Landale in particular, he's the hustle play, the physicality. I mentioned it a couple times on the broadcast during game 3. He's a plus 26 over the last 2. Ayton is a minus 17 for the series. Ayton's a minus 38. So his minutes have been big. And then Okogie played 17 last night, 10 in game 3. And so they're really leaning in on TJ Warren, Landry Shamet, and Terrence Ross at the wing position off the bench. And those 3 guys, in particular, have delivered. Landry, of course, last night hit 5 threes. But after that game 2, where the bench gets 4 points, they get 22 points off the bench in game 3. They get 40 points off the bench last night. So I actually said this at our production meeting before game 3. I'm like, I think Durant and Book have to go for like 80 for them to even have a chance to win. And then sure enough, they went for 85 and they got some bench production and they win game 3. And then last night, the 2 of them just on one again, and then they get 40 points from the bench.
Yeah.
It just feels like, this is why I love the playoffs. because we can sit here and we did a video last week with Legs where it's like, doesn't Denver feel like the best team so far in the playoffs? And like, I stand by what we said, but there's two monsters over there in a Phoenix uniform, so you just can't count them out.
And also, it just changes so fast. The Nuggets only had 11 bench points last night. We were talking about all the guys on games 1 and 2 that were stepping up for them. Is there something with because we did talk about this with him as well, with their pace, with the campaign in particular, with Chris out of the lineup, then they just seem to be moving a little faster. And it feels like that's it's hurt the Nuggets' ability to sort of like set up their defense. And so it's allowed those two to go off, but then also like TJ and Landry and Cam and everything like that. Do you feel any difference in terms of the pace, or is this just a question of just like, oh no, these guys are making their shots. The bench guys are making their shots, and so they're tough to beat. I was thinking last night, I mean, like, who the hell is beating the Suns when their bench scores 40? I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, but I don't think it's possible to expect their bench to score 40. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's also, as much as we talk about Booker and Durant's run, that's also unrealistic and unsustainable. Because game to game, again, you don't know where that production's coming from. If you're relying on it, like Landry, I love Landry. If you're relying on Landry to hit 5 threes a game, that's probably not sustainable. I think the general strategy, though, from Monty against this Denver Nuggets team, where he relied on the quote, the defensive guys, Torrey Craig, Josh Okogie in the first round, and then recognizing 2 games in, all right, to us have a chance. Because you go back, I mean, the game 3, right? They didn't get 40 off the bench, but it was TJ Warren in that fourth quarter who had 2 big buckets, a 3 from the left corner and then a floater off a closeout. So I think that strategy is important. You're not going to get that every game. Real quick on Kevin and Booker, by the way, found this really interesting. First duo in NBA history, period, playoffs or regular season, to each record 35, 5, and 5 in consecutive games together. It's pretty damn good. And again, going back to that 80-point comment, the first duo to score or assist on 100+ points in consecutive games. So I think as much as we talk about depth, rotation, bench with this team, and as much as Ayton has looked like a shell of the best version of DeAndre Ayton, you got a chance because you got KD and Book playing this way. A couple things I want to note. Just in general, because I think this is important. I know I talk about the math problem all the time, but Suns getting 13 threes, bench hit 7 of those, Landry hit 5, Terrence Ross hit 2, and Denver only generating 22 threes in game 3, 7 makes. That was sort of flipped, games 1 and 2, where Suns were having problems generating threes, and so again, we're going to put the offensive guys on the floor, and they primarily have just said, Jokic, go score, right? A lot of these threes that they are getting are, in transition, or Jamal Murray off the dribble, or Michael Porter Jr. off a DHO. It's some of those threes that we saw throughout the regular season where Jokic is just being patient and waiting for the double and swinging it. Hey, we're not seeing as much of that, and they're just allowing him to play one-on-one basketball.
Well, so I was actually curious about this. Booker said this after the game when they asked him about Jokic. They were like, we're happy to have him hit a 50-piece on us, because we think that plays into our strategy. Do you think that is a sort of, I mean, Joker was amazing last night. I should note, first center with a 50-point playoff game since Bob McAdoo in 1975. But do you feel in a weird way like they're okay if he does this every night, if it doesn't let them get the other guys into their offense?
Yeah, I think back to 2011 first round. We had beat the Hawks the previous year by I think it was like 24 a game. We swept them in 2010, and then when we played them in 2011, they basically were just like, we're going to let Dwight score, so we're not going to help as much in pick and roll. We're going to try to play 2v2 in pick and roll. When he does post up, we're just going to let him go a one-on-one. And he had an amazing series, but what that did is it took away our shooting and our strengths, which was, our spread offense and taking threes. At the time, it was a lot of threes. If you look back, it's not a lot of threes relative to today, but that really hurt us. And I think too, with Michael Porter Jr., KCP, right? It's like there's a rhythm for those guys because those guys aren't playing with the basketball as much. Now, Jamal Murray still gets to play with the basketball a lot. And Jamal Murray, and I pointed this out on Friday night, and it's worth noting. I think it's worth noting, and he's had a fantastic series. This is not me knocking, but one of the things that was noted was that I felt like at times the ball got a little sticky in his hands, which led to some late clock possessions, some tough forced shots at the end of shot clocks, and the second spectrum data. They can measure your touches and your dribbles per touches and all that. And 3 of his 8 top dribble per touch games of the entire season have been in this series. And he's basically averaging a second more time with the ball in his hand per touch than he did in the first round with the Wolves. So something to look for, going forward, because I do think there's times, and I thought this game 3, where it's like a possession where you really need a bucket, and it's fine. Like, I trust Jamal Murray, but if they're going to play Jokic like that, just get the ball to Jokic. What I mean? Just get the ball to Jokic and have him sort of go at it.